I had the unique opportunity to watch the Los Angeles Lakers versus the Sacramento Kings live and in person at Crypto.com Arena. And if you guys saw my Instagram story, there was some strange stuff that went down. For one, LeBron James didn't even bother to tip the ball off, but at the same time, Russell Westbrook recorded his first game without a turnover in almost 5 years. But it seems like there's some drama going on in regards to the Los Angeles Lakers, including them trying to attempt to trade multiple of their players, including Russell Westbrook. So before we get to the content, we're giving away $500 to a subscriber that turns on our notifications on this channel, and another $500 to someone that follows us on Instagram. Now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? I'm gonna admit, man, it has been a very difficult season to be a Los Angeles Lakers fan, and currently the trending narrative in regards to the Los Angeles Lakers this year is that this is once again a repeat of the 2013 NBA season. For those of you guys that don't know what that's referring to, about 9 years ago, the Los Angeles Lakers had one of the most exciting off seasons, probably since this past off season or the off season that they acquired Anthony Davis. After missing the playoffs multiple times since their 2010 championship run, they were able to hit a home run and acquire arguably the second best player in the NBA at that time, Dwight Howard, to pair with Kobe Bryant. In addition to that, they were able to swing a trade for aging Hall of Famer Steve Nash and form a big four with Pau Gasol. Ultimately, there's a lot of reasons it didn't work out. Dwight Howard returned extremely prematurely from a back surgery. The Los Angeles Lakers were trying to run the Princeton offense and it just didn't work out, so they fired their head coach 3 games into the season, and then they brought in Mike D'Antoni, who pushed Kobe Bryant so much over the edge, playing him for 48 minutes per game at a specific point, and then Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles. It was a very tough season for Los Angeles Lakers fans, but I don't think this season is even remotely similar to the season that we're currently having. As a matter of fact, I think this season is much like the 2017 to 2018 Cleveland Cavaliers season. Now, for those of you guys that don't remember what happened in that season, that was the offseason where Kyrie Irving got traded to the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers received Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder in return for him. Isaiah Thomas didn't really work out for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and at the trade deadline, LeBron James practically traded away his whole team. No, I'm serious. Starting with trading Isaiah Thomas, Channing Frye, and their own 2018 first round pick for Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr. Then they traded Derrick Rose and Jay Crowder to the Jazz, Joe Johnson and Iman Shumpert and a 2022 second round pick to Sacramento for George Hill and Rodney Hood. And I think this was the funniest part. They just traded Dwayne Wade back to Miami for a protected second round pick just to do him a solid because they didn't feel like he wanted to be there. I mean, he was 36 years old and it was towards the end of his career, so why on earth should Dwayne Wade be hanging around Cleveland for a season that probably was going to end at the very best in the Cavaliers losing in the NBA Finals against a star-studded Golden State Warriors team? And ultimately, I feel like the Los Angeles Lakers are kind of heading towards a much similar situation because according to Brian Windhorst, they're trying to trade multiple players.
Yeah, so they already offloaded a player in Rondo to create a roster spot, and they are looking to do more of that, Malika. From teams that I've talked to, they are out there with LeBron starting at center and eventually getting Anthony Davis back. They are looking to move DeAndre Jordan, not necessarily for another player, but to move him so that they can open up a roster spot. Kent Bazemore is another player that they've been willing to talk about in talking to some other teams. And I think, again, their goal is open up a roster spot. The Rondo move looks like it was going to be designed for Stanley Johnson to fill, but they may look in the buyout market for another player or two. They're trying to figure out how to do that.
So DeAndre Jordan and Kent Bazemore are on the trade block, and for the most part, okay, those are players on fairly small contracts. As a matter of fact, Kent Bazemore is only making $2.4 million guaranteed. Same with DeAndre Jordan. So for the most part, those are just players that could be traded for honestly peanuts if you ask me. But the most interesting part of these reports, and I don't know how true this is because it would be a bad look if it was true, but unfortunately the Los Angeles Lakers haven't had a history of keeping quiet and their cards to their chest when it comes to making these moves. It seems like the Los Angeles Lakers have tried to trade Russell Westbrook already. Now, according to this report, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, this isn't anything against Russell Westbrook because I personally will always root for Russell Westbrook. He went to my alma mater. He defied all odds when he was coming out of the NBA draft. A lot of people thought that the OKC Thunder reached on him in the NBA draft. I felt like the storybook season where he won an MVP after Kevin Durant left was freaking awesome. And I just am happy for the career the man's cultivated for himself. He's made bank throughout his career. He's won multiple MVPs, made multiple All-Star games, was a part of multiple storylines in the NBA's history, and unfortunately, he was never able to win a championship. Now, this comes to us from The Athletic, which is a very reputable source, and the person that wrote this article is none other than Sam Amick. It starts by saying, in Lakers land where LeBron James and Anthony Davis spent their summer interviewing a variety of star players who they hoped would lighten their workload, it's Russell Westbrook's presence that has proven to be so problematic. It's still an awkward fit between Westbrook and the Lakers, to say the least, especially with his massive salary slot, which is $44.2 million this season, with a $47 million player option for next season, which, by the way, he is definitely going to be opting into that player option. It was one thing when opposing team scouts, along with ESPN's Tim Legler, were recommending he becomes the Lakers' sixth man just 5 games in, but it's been 39 games now, and while Russell Westbrook clearly passed the test back in late July when he joined the likes of DeMar DeRozan and Damian Lillard in interviewing for this job essentially as the Lakers' third star, that has not been the case during the 9-game stretch in which Anthony Davis has been sidelined with an MCL sprain. Now, the argument for this is Russell Westbrook was primarily brought in for these situations when one of the Lakers' star players were out with an injury. Russell Westbrook could take over for an injured Anthony Davis and work cohesively with LeBron James, or he could take the place of LeBron James when LeBron James was injured. Now, this is where it gets a little juicy. It's LeBron James's greatness in the past 9 games and the emergence of minimum salary addition Malik Monk since he became a starter 5 games ago, which is 20.8 points on 55.6% shooting overall and 46% from 3 on 7.5 attempts per game, that has kept them afloat without Anthony Davis. And then it provides advanced statistics during this Anthony Davis-less stretch. LeBron James has a plus 2.7 net rating on and a minus 17.7 net rating off, which is a 20.4 swing. Russell Westbrook is minus 0.5 on and minus 8.2 off. And then there's Malik Monk, who has been absolutely on fire, who is a plus 13 on and a minus 1.9 off during this 5-game starting stretch. And they're claiming that this is the reason why the Los Angeles Lakers have shown some covert interest in discussing a possible Russell Westbrook trade with rival executives earlier this season. Now, a deal appears extremely unlikely before the trade deadline, if only because his deal that was once seen by so many as untradeable in such a massive obstacle. But inside the Lakers, it seems like there is some recognition that this has not gone as James and Davis had planned. I'm kind of shocked at this entire situation because the moment the Russell Westbrook trade happened, I said, 1, he's ball dominant, 2, he's not necessarily the best at playing off other playmakers, 3, he's not a great shooter by any means, although he hasn't been as bad as he was in recent years this year. But take a look at this Russell Westbrook quote and you'll understand his mentality and the biggest problem that we have as Los Angeles Lakers fans. The first one being a couple of weeks ago when he was stating that he's been playing fine for the Lakers and I think people are expecting me to have 25, 15, and 15, and that is not normal. And the reason why I think this is a problem is you kind of get an idea of what Russell Westbrook's mentality is. People are expecting me to have 25, 15, and 15, and if he has 25, 15, and 15, that's considered to be a successful game for himself, which that is him chasing personal accolades. I'd rather him get like 12, 4, and 5 and result in a dominant Los Angeles Lakers win than 25, 15, and 15 and the Lakers lose. But unfortunately, that isn't how how Russell Westbrook is thinking. He's thinking, I need to chase these personal statistics, and if I'm able to achieve these statistics, then I did my job. And that's what people are expecting me to do. But that's not what we're expecting him to do at all, and that's a huge problem. The second was his mentality in regards to bad games. I mean, literally just 2 days ago, Russell Westbrook had a 9 turnover game. Now, granted, I'm going to give props where props are due. He did have a 0 turnover game against the Sacramento Kings, but when he was asked about it, he came out and said, I'm allowed to miss shots, so I'm allowed to turn over the ball as well. The exact quote saying, I disagree with the point that the game wasn't going my way. My game is not predicated on shots or if I turn the ball over. I missed some shots, that's part of the game. I'm allowed to miss shots. I can do that like any other player. I can do that. And I can turn the ball over too. I can do that. That's all part of the game. But when you watch the basketball game and figure out what impact is, making the right plays, boxing out, rebounding, whatever that may be, making the right play, making the right reads, that's all about being a basketball player. So it seems like there is definitely a difference in opinion and philosophy, at least between me and Russell Westbrook. But regardless, I want to make one thing completely clear. Statistically speaking, he's not having that bad of a season at all. I mean, if you look at him, he currently has 19.5 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, 8 assists per game, 45% shooting, 30% shooting from 3 with a 15.9 player efficiency rating. Is that worth paying a max contract for? I mean, if he fit in with the Los Angeles Lakers, I'd say yes, but the problem is he doesn't seem to fit the Los Angeles Lakers. I do think moving him to the bench is a very aggressive decision, but I think it could potentially be successful. So in the end of the day, I feel like the only 2 solutions we have, at least as Laker fans, is 1, trade Russell Westbrook, but who would you trade him for? Who would want to take on his contract, and what could you potentially get in return for Russell Westbrook? And of course, 2, move him to the bench. Let me know which one you guys think is more effective. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.